For decades, Niger was seen as a quiet but indispensable pillar of the global nuclear fuel supply chain. It was one of the world's key uranium producers, ranking 7th globally in 2022, and it supplied a resource that powered not only reactors but also the strategic energy security of nations. France, which used to be a major colonial power on the African continent, relied heavily on uranium from its former colony, and at one point, Niger covered up to 15% of the needs of France's massive nuclear energy sector. But today, that long-standing relationship is collapsing, and in its place, a new geopolitical front is emerging, one that stretches from the Sahel to Moscow, Beijing, New Delhi, and far beyond. The new emerging framework, in my opinion, is an excellent example of how multipolarity is transforming the entire world. The latest flashpoint came with a revelation that alarmed the French government. According to reporting by Le Monde, Niger's military authorities may have struck a $170 million deal with Russia's state-owned nuclear corporation Rosatom for the sale of 1,000 tons of concentrated uranium that is the foundation for the entire nuclear fuel cycle. The stockpile in question, roughly 1,400 tons, stored at the Arlit deposit in northern Niger, once belonged to the French nuclear giant Orano, but after Niger's July 2023 coup, Orano was forced to halt operations. To understand how this happened, we have to look back to July the 26th, 2023. That was the day a group of Presidential Guard soldiers, joined by Niger's military leadership, toppled President Mohamed Bazoum. General Chiani declared himself the new leader and justified the coup as a necessary move against corruption and mismanagement. France condemned the takeover as it knew that it would lose the remnants of its colonial influence in Niger, and in response, the new government of Niger suspended uranium and gold exports to Paris, accusing the French government of planning a military intervention. From that moment on, Niger's economic reorientation was irreversible. Just like Burkina Faso and Mali, Niger wants to develop its infrastructure to refine raw materials instead of being exploited. Colonial powers historically extract and export raw materials from Africa, and in turn they import finished goods, which leaves resource-rich African nations poor for generations. As French troops withdrew and Orano's operations stalled, Niger opened its doors to new partners. Analysts now describe the shift as part of a broader pattern, a rapid erosion of France's post-colonial influence in Africa. Where French dominance once shaped political and economic decisions, African governments are increasingly refusing to take Paris' lead. Instead, they're pursuing a multipolar model, which is why I think this is so fascinating. They're turning toward countries that promise investment with fewer political conditions attached. Remember that non-conditionality is very, very appealing, which the IMF and the World Bank and other Western-led institutions simply do not offer. They refuse to offer non-conditional loans to developing nations. They attach conditions that impact policy making in those states that receive funding, and this is not usually in their favor. So without a doubt, this is a big loss for France. Losing access to the uranium from Niger is not just an economic headache, it actually symbolizes a dramatic decline in French influence across Africa. As I mentioned in my previous videos, you might recall, the Sahel is rapidly transforming, and Burkina Faso and Mali have already moved away from France and aligned with many of the BRICS nations, particularly with Russia and China. As you may know, Ethiopia in the Horn of Africa is a BRICS member. As you can see, what for decades underpinned France's energy stability and industrial strategy is now slipping from its grasp. And the shock is all the more profound because Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso Countries once firmly embedded in France's security orbit have now realigned, I should say, toward non-Western partners at truly breathtaking speed. For France, the consequences are immediate and very painful. It has effectively lost access to a resource that once supported the backbone of its energy system. Somme, which is the country's largest uranium mine, long operated by Orano, is no longer under Paris control, and with Niger no longer exporting uranium to France, Paris has been forced to seek alternative suppliers, including Kazakhstan and Australia, where raw materials come at higher costs. So yes, energy costs in France will likely rise as the result of this new development. France's leverage is decreasing across Africa, and its costs are rising, and its strategic dependence is growing. Meanwhile, Niger is expanding its uranium partnerships far beyond Russia. The authorities of Niger are in advanced talks with India, with China, with Turkey, and Gulf states such as the UAE. These players aren't just interested in buying concentrated uranium. By the way, they are actually willing to discuss co-investment in conversion facilities, which is such a big deal. The kind of infrastructure that Niger has never had under the colonial rule, but desperately wants and needs to continue growing economically and to make the standards of living more acceptable. Today, the country still exports uranium in its raw, pre-processed form, but if it builds its own conversion capacity, it could recapture far more value, it could create jobs, and control a larger share of the nuclear fuel cycle. That, of course, requires capital, it requires advanced technology, and long-term political backing. Western institutions typically attach very strict conditions to such investments when it comes to infrastructure development, even if they do that, but BRICS-aligned nations often do not attach conditionality, which is why the BRICS Bank, the new development bank, has a truly tremendous potential in attracting developing nations. So the pivot is happening alongside Niger's participation in a new regional alliance, the Alliance of Sahel States, which was formed in 2023 by Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. After expelling French forces, the three nations announced that they would coordinate on defense, on foreign policy, and most importantly, on strategic resources. Burkina Faso has already nationalized its gold mines, and Mali is moving in that direction as well. In October of 2025, the Alliance of Sahel States unveiled plans for a common mining exchange and a sovereign wealth fund to jointly manage revenues from gold, from lithium, uranium, and other critical minerals that all three member states have. And so that greatly helps them increase leverage and also to diversify trading partners and hopefully to attract investment opportunities. This new strategy challenges a global system that was long dominated by Western institutions such as the World Bank and the IMF. The new multipolar framework in trade and in investment that the Sahel states are supporting and actively pushing forward will definitely help them develop a broad spectrum of partnerships with the global South, as well as with Western states. Let's not forget that. They do need partnerships with Western states, just on new mutually beneficial terms. I think that is going to be key. In the Sahel, the balance of power has already shifted. The question now is how far this shift will spread and how the rest of the world will respond to it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I truly appreciate you watching the video and supporting my work. If you would like a bit more content, make sure that you join me on Substack and Patreon. Support my work. I appreciate every single one of my subscribers. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Bye for now.